Hello everyone, this is Shilpa Mudiganti, your host of the podcast Simplify CXM, and I welcome you to our new episode wherein we will talk about experience management. But before we get started, I wanted to make an announcement. I'm changing the name of this podcast from Simplify CXM to Simplify XM. Now I'm dropping the C, and you must be wondering, well, isn't this all about customer experience? Of course it is. Of course it is. But as I get deeper into the subject, one of the things that I realized is I, as a person, or you, experience a lot of things the moment you step out of your house. You're interacting with organizations in different roles. It could be as a customer, it could be as an employee, as a dealer, partner, any entity that you name, but you are experiencing it, and it's all interconnected. If you are talking about experiencing a brand, an organization, it could be in different roles. And you cannot deliver the experience that each of these roles deserve without that interconnection at all. So the more that I think about this, I feel that instead of calling it customer experience management allows me to focus this podcast on a variety of roles that different people play in this and also make it more holistic. So, having said that, I'm thrilled that today's topic also focuses on that aspect of it. And I'm excited to welcome Chris Roach, who's a well known, seasoned customer success leader, to this episode today. And we are going to talk about people. Chris, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shilpa, and thank you for giving me this chance to join your podcast. I'm really excited, look forward to share my experiences. Just to introduce myself, I'm the Chief Customer Officer at Supermetrics, a marketing automation platform that help marketers make better decisions. My role there, I look after everything from customer success to customer support to customer solutions and expert services. And I've been doing this role in various guises for 10 to 20 years, depending on how you name it. And for me, I describe my job sometimes as more a religion than a job. It comes from here and not the logo, in my heart and the passion and what the Germans call the Begeisterung, which is the enthusiasm and the passion. So that's what drives me.
I absolutely love that, Chris. And in fact, I've heard you talk a lot about people, then customers. I would love to hear more about that. That's a very subtle way of moving the conversation away from the concept of customer and revenue and getting something from you to the human side of things. That's how I interpreted it. What's your take on it?
Absolutely. And for me, I coined a phrase that people success is the new customer success. And what I mean by that is that we, as in the tech world, we talk about our customers, and you go on our websites, you'll see lots of logos. And you, Shilpa, were a customer of mine, and it was Shilpa that was a customer, not the logo of the company you work for. Mm-hmm. And we have connections with the people, and we help those people be successful in their organizations. And if we do our job well and they are successful, then we're successful. It's about people. It's not about logos. And I think that, to me, has always been something that's resonated with me, that it comes down to individual success and helping those individuals be successful.
And I think especially in roles like yours, which is responsible to deliver success, you say that it's delivering success for your organization, but it's a customer success role. It's the success of the customer, which really means the people involved in it. It's fascinating that you were able to do that. You were conscious of that angle to it, that you're working with people, and I was your customer, Shilpa was your customer, not the logo that I was working for. Some of our conversations, you did mention about the people success framework. And that is a very interesting concept, right? And going back to what you just said, wherein you're trying to put the human behind that brand when you're interacting. Tell me more about how does that framework work? What does it look like?
And in simple terms, it's about, the framework has 4 parts to it. I think you need to set a direction. You need to set a vision that's people-centric. You need to define what your North Star is for customer success, and then have people as a core part of that and how you focus that. Then you need to make sure you've got the right team in place. And you do that 2 ways. You enable your existing team, and anybody you hire into your team, you make sure they adhere to those values and principles. Then you need to go through recognition. And that's really about recognizing people, not just about recognizing customers. Saying thank you, recognizing the loyalty and the commitment those individuals place in you, because many of them, and depending on the investment they make, they're gambling their career on whether what you provide them works or not. Mm-hmm. So there's a lot at stake here. But so recognizing and thanking them. And then the fourth element is about operationalizing it, about really making sure the mechanics of your business are set up to know who those customers are, to have plans and focus the concept of a people success plan, and to make sure your people are accessible to your customers' people, and to really bring the connection between the two people. So it's really around direct, enable, recognize, and operationalize. That's what how I'd set the framework up.
One of the things that I would like to point out, that the second point, which is it's essentially about building the culture. When you're hiring the right people, you're really looking at who have the same values as your organization has, or the vision that you have built for success of our customers. I think not just in a customer success organization, culture drives so much of experience management in any organization. And I guess that is where also you have this aspect of employee culture, right? Like if your employees are tuned to the vision and believe it, as you mentioned at the beginning, it comes from your heart. If the employees really believe in the vision of serving our customers, giving them those delightful experiences, it is but natural that it starts showing up in our customer interactions as well.
Can I just build on that point? Something we did recently at Supermetrics, because that whole setting the culture, we actually looking at our values, and we thought we have to have a value in there that's around the customer. So we've actually got a value called think like a customer, which is put yourselves in the customer's shoes, take their perspective on problems. When you're thinking about a problem or you're thinking about how you design something, be the customer while you're doing that. And that is transforming many of the ways we set up purchasing processes, where the way we engage them, we go, hang on, are you thinking like a customer? Start with that in mind when you're designing things, when you're thinking about how you serve them. And you end up with a very different result by getting that framing right.
It's building empathy, right? You're building empathy with the customer, which is such a key element to delivering a good experience. Another point that really attracted me is recognizing people. And you said something that's so true. Like this customer, this human behind that logo is staking their career on the decisions they're making with your organization. Has there been any interesting examples that you would like to share as to how that has delighted your customers?
You know what's interesting is the real test is, anybody's watching this and works in the tech industry, open your own web page, your own website of your organization, and go to the customer page and look at what you see. Do you see, in many cases, a bunch of logos? Or do you see what Salesforce do very, very well, which is when you open the customer page on Salesforce, you see a bunch of people with their names and their titles and their photos of these people. These are the customers. And it's interesting, where I'm working, we're actually redesigning a website to do exactly that, because we realized that we were just talking about logos, and those aren't customers, they're logos. Let's talk about people. That's a really simple example, but it's frightening how many tech companies, their customer pages are not full of people. The other thing is about giving rewards and recognizing individuals who in your customer who go the extra mile, who champion, who work with you, and having awards for those individuals in those customers to recognize and thank them for their loyalty, commitment, and support.
Mm-hmm. I absolutely love the idea of putting face of your customer on your website instead of brands, or along with the brands. I'll have to check out Salesforce website for it. But it's in such a subtle way, you're making it more human. I know that I would connect more with the person's picture than actually seeing the logo of the company. So that's just absolutely brilliant. One of the things that I wanted to pull the thread on is it's beautiful what you just said, right? Knowing the person better, empathizing with your customer, being in the customer's shoes, and test something out before rolling it out. But how do you build that profile of the customer? And there's an industry term, customer 360, that especially all of us who have come with a background of CRM has heard of it much more often. We want to build customer 360. And I think that's a monumental task to complete. It's getting better with the technology that is in place, but practically, and you have to have that if you were to succeed in the steps that you just mentioned. Can you talk a little bit more about, have you tried building a customer 360? And if so, like how easy, hard, and how did you go about doing it?
I think, yes, I built Customer 360 inside organizations. And people go, "Oh, is that just jargon, Chris? What do you actually mean?" Well,
Yeah.
what I've done, and I've done it 3 times now, is we took a standard Salesforce CRM deployment and we built out an object, in technical terms, we have an object called a customer success plan. And a customer success plan has all the obvious stuff in it. It has a record of why the customer made the choice to buy your solution, who bought it. And this is super important. Again, if you have a customer and you just have the company name and you don't know all the different sponsors, the champions, the users, the technical, but you don't know those people and you don't know their names, then you're not going to be able to connect on that level. So it's got who the people are, it's got the products they bought, it's got their sentiment and their support for you, because sentiment is super important. And sentiment's very hard to measure scientifically. But if you're looking after a customer and you're a customer success manager, the sentiment of your customer, whether you're in a good place or not, and what you need to do to get them in a good place. And then for me, how do you build it? You build it step by step. Start small, expand it. Start with just capturing the customers, capturing their status, capturing why they bought it, who they are, and then expand it into other areas of where do they want to grow, what's their growth plan, what training have they taken, what advocacy have they done for you. And you essentially have a single place to host that. Some people might say, well, but Chris, we've got that in lots of different systems. But here's an interesting challenge for you. What happens if your support system is not connected to your system your success manager is using, and one of your customers logs a ticket and they aren't very happy, and the success manager finds out about it too late? Then you've got a different challenge. If it's all wired up together, the success manager knows the second the support ticket's logged that there's an issue, and then can work together. And from a customer's perspective, which is super important, they see a seamless experience because you're joining the dots for them. You're not expecting them to work out which team, who people are in. You're all looking at the same view of that customer.
Absolutely. You said something that was interesting, that we need to ensure that these systems are connected, these systems that needs to come together to deliver the experience to the customer, so they really understand, they don't have to repeat themselves, they feel heard, there's that empathy that is getting built. In your experience, how easy or hard it is to build such connectivity in the tech ecosystem or for an organization?
It's easier if you're working off one solution. I'm not a salesperson for Salesforce, but having it in one platform does make a big difference. If it's not in one platform, which I've experienced too, being creative about how you create visibility of other systems in one system. A practical example, we had a support tickets in Freshdesk. We had success plans in Salesforce. Connecting Freshdesk and Salesforce was complicated, but we could render a Looker dashboard with all the support tickets inside Salesforce. Bingo, problem solved. So being creative about how do you get the same outcome? How do you get that same visibility, even though those support tickets are not wired together into the CRM, but they're visible? And it's being pragmatic. I think that's, for me, is the solution on this kind of thing. Don't try and boil the ocean. Don't try and create a massive new project. Don't rip out support systems for no good reason. Just think, how can I get around this and find a solution? That's been my approach. And that's kind of worked quite well so far.
So start small and be creative in how we get there. One follow-up question on something that you said beforehand, which is having this, the way that you approach this is you created a custom object and you kind of brought all the available information, starting small and be creative, all the information together of the customer 360. Who's responsible to be doing this? Like, who owns this? But not every organization have a customer success team.
I think this is a tricky one. If you're saying if they don't have a customer success team, then they probably shouldn't have a success plan. Because without an owner, it's a piece of paper. It's a wired up system. The thing that brings it to life, and I've always believed, is the owner of the success plan is the owner of the customer, is, in American terms, it's the quarterback. You need a quarterback in this. You need someone who ultimately connects it, because there's nothing more painful for a customer to go, hang on, who should I talk to? Am I talking to my salesperson or an account manager? Or hang on, I'm confused. If you want to manage a decent customer relationship, you got to simplify it for the customer. Here's my point of contact. Yes, you have escalation paths, but at the end of the day, you have to have that clarity of ownership and accountability. Otherwise, you will end up with chaos. And if you think like a customer, your customer will not enjoy the journey.
I love that. Having an owner. So if I'm summarizing the last few minutes of what you just said, and I think this is gold for people who are leaders who are trying to set up customer success teams that's going to be successful in serving customers, start with a vision of what success for your customer looks like. Build the culture, hire the right people to serve the customer in a way that you have that's aligned with your vision. Third, we need to recognize people, and that includes employees and customers, because the person at the customer's table is taking their career with your organization, but also your people, employees who are serving the customer, is also taking their careers in a way by trying to do a job that will allow them to grow. And then finally, operationalize it, right? And operationalize is where I'm thinking about tools like Customer 360 that we just talked about. We need to build the entire customer 360, whether it is like 360 or 180 or whatever that is, but you need to start small. You need to start with a plan of what success looks like for your customer. And then we need to have the owner. If you do not have a customer success team, probably it is in some other department that is responsible to deliver that experience to your customer. And it's very important for organizations to recognize the owner so that there is one department that is able to bring all the disconnected and disjointed pieces across the organization together and deliver that experience to the clients. Am I getting that right?
Absolutely. There's two things I'd add to that. The hiring the people, there's a phrase someone told me, which is warm heart and a cool head. So when you hire someone, do they have that passion? Do they have the empathy, the connection?
Mm-hmm.
But you want more than that, because you're running a business here. You want that cool head to be able to think clearly, commercially, and balance those two together. So whenever I'm interviewing, I'm looking for a warm heart and a cool head. And someone, so Chris, how do you find that? The simplest way is you ask them to tell you a story in an interview. Tell me your best customer story. And then you turn the sound off and you watch them, because you don't need to hear the story. You need to see them light up. You
Love
need to
that.
see them come to life, and almost without the sound, it would be better. And if you do, and they're excited and they're passionate and they get carried away, then you've found the diamond in there. And I think anything less than that, that's not okay. Don't settle for halfway on that.
Definitely going to use that in my next hire.
The other thing that I've heard said, but Chris, I have thousands of customers. I can't put an owner of every single one. That's true, but people and teams can own them. But don't ever hide behind support, customer success at blah, blah, blah. Because I'm Chris, you're Shilpa. Even when you engage with a customer on a support ticket, or you can use your name, bring your personality. And I encourage my team is, yes, you're dealing with thousands of customers, but don't hide behind an inbox. Mm-hmm. Don't hide behind your keyboard. Bring yourself to them, because that individual on the other end, that's what they want. When we deal as customers in the real world and deal with businesses, whether on mobile phone, I want to talk to a human being. I want it with personality and passion. And then I walk away from that going, that was a really nice call. I'll be left with a great impression. Coming back to why you rename this podcast, it's about the experience. You want them to leave the interaction with, that was nice. That brightened up my day.
That resonates a lot with me. I think I have had many interactions wherein I was replying to an inbox named Customer Success at brand.com. And it does feel very impersonal. But the moment you start seeing the name, the real person who's responding, it starts to feel more human. That's subtle, but such a huge change to the perception of the brand. Great point. And this is my favorite question. Can you talk about either your customer or a brand that you have noticed and you interact with that you think is doing this really right?
Who's doing this really right? I think there's a brand in UK called John Lewis. John Lewis, they're a department store. They're actually a partnership, interesting enough. Well, they were until very, very recently. So every employee is a partner. So they have a stake in the business, which is quite rare for retail. And they have a philosophy where they help you buy, they don't sell to you. When you go in there, they have their name badges. But when we had our kids many years ago, we went in to buy some items for the kids. But the way they served us, the way they interacted with us, and they did things that were in our best interests. It wasn't about feathering their checkouts and their tills. It was about serving us. And as a result, the loyalty there, I mean, interesting, if I buy an Apple product, I would buy it from John Lewis before I bought it from Apple. I'll get a better experience, even though it's an Apple product. I will pay the same price, but if it goes wrong, the John Lewis experience will be 10x better than Apple. And that is quite remarkable, given that Apple are good, but John Lewis are better, particularly with tech.
I find that ironic because in my last episode, when I was asked which was what's a brand that you think was great, I said Apple, because they seem to know every time I go there. So John Lewis does it better than Apple. Now I have to buy something from them. Do you think John Lewis did a customer 360? Do you feel the personalization?
Well, it's interesting. I have a John Lewis app, which has every online order I placed in the last however many 8 to 10 years, all the warranties. They personalize the offers they send to me. When I buy in store, often if I use my John Lewis card, it's added to my app. So I don't need to keep warranties. It's a small thing. That's so helpful. You buy a piece of tech and where's the warranty? I don't know, where it's on there. And actually, even if you can go in the store and they can look you up and that's when you bought it, here's another one, we'll sort it out. And I had a GoPro once that went wrong because I took the cover off and got wet and they went, oh, that's a bit silly. Here's a new one.
Wow. That's pretty impressive. I do hope that I get a chance to interact with that brand. But this has been awesome. I do not have further questions, but I learned a lot. But there is a headline that I think I need to bring it up for our audience, which is all that we talked about, experience management and the aspect of human face that needs to be put to the experience management part of your organization. One, I feel that everyone's a customer and everyone's an employee or some role that you're playing with the brand. But at the end of the day, it's about the human. And second, and I think it's more important that has come out in these conversations, whether we are talking about how do you build a success plan, the framework, the 360, the key element is empathy. When you have empathy, when your organization has empathy for your customer, for the lives that they live, as Chris pointed out with his example about John Lewis, if your employees are able to display empathy for your customers, the experience is going to reflect that. The experience that your customers are going to face is going to reflect that. And you could build loyalty through empathy than any other fancy tool and AI and all the technology that's out there to help you to do that. I really learned a lot today, Chris. Thank you so much. I'm sure our audience would as well. Thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Shilpa. It's been a pleasure. Great conversation.